If you're anxiously attached, it can feel like you're going to push everybody away. Like you're going to be too much, too emotional, like you're screwed. That like, where is the person who I just want to love all out? Why is there no one else who wants to love all out? I just want to meet someone on the bridge and be like a rom-com and everything roll off into the sunset. And yet you seem to keep attracting people who distance, and you keep validating the story that you're too much, too emotional, too whatever. So I'm going to explain to you in this video, one, why anxious people are drawn to avoidant people and vice versa, and also how to start to create safety and security, whether you're with an anxious person or you are an anxious person. So first, let's just understand where it comes from. Anxious people tend to be afraid of there being too much space relationally. Now, they're hypersensitive to any space. Avoidant people are afraid of there not being enough space. So this is kind of a mindfuck because you guys end up in relationships with each other because you each validate each other's view of relationship unconsciously. Anxious people are afraid that they're too much. They're afraid that when they get close to people and love them, they distance. What do avoidant people do when people get really emotional and need stuff? They distance. And they're afraid that if they get in a relationship, they're going to lose themselves. They're going to lose their autonomy, their sense of self. They're going to have to make their life about other people's feelings. So we tend to, in the conversation about anxious and avoidance, kind of make it like anxious people just got screwed. They're the ones who love all out. And avoidant people, they're just effed because they're the ones who have to learn how to come close to the anxious person. But the anxious person is part of this dance. The anxious person has to discover how to regulate their own nervous system. They have to discover how to not leap out of their body chasing somebody, because that actually eradicates safety too. And they often will make their emotional experience about them. So there's not a lot of space for the other person. Now, from a nervous system perspective, what's happening for both of these people, anxiously attached people have a hard time self-regulating, which means sitting in their own feelings and not engaging in a behavior, right? So if someone hasn't texted you back, you over-text them and then you confirm the story that you can be too much. But if you can learn to sit in the feelings of the unknown, you can allow yourself to process that. Avoidant people have a hard time co-regulating, which means being in the company of someone else and processing things, right? Sharing space for their feelings, needs, and wants. Now, both of these are adaptive strategies. We need to have compassion for both of them, because what these two people are doing constantly is all of us are doing. Our attachment system is saying, am I safe? Am I safe? Are you safe? Are you reliable? And if I need you, will you be here? Right? So that's actually very important, and we do that in all our relationships, not just romantic. They just get amplified with romantic because we need to be able to depend on other people. Now, here's the fascinating thing, is that if you look at it, anxious people really, all they want to know is that they matter, right? They have a hard time taking up space. They have a hard time being in that space. Avoidant people have no problem taking up space. Often their life is built with walls around them because they're afraid of letting people in. But let's stick to the anxious person here. The anxious person tends to leave themselves in order to go after what is not showing up for them. So I remember when my wife and I were first dating, I remember thinking I have more of a predisposition to be anxiously attached when someone is distant or there's some unknown. And I remember thinking, like, I want her to come towards me, but yet I don't even create the space for her to come towards me. Ultimately, at the core of healing anxious attachment is about creating new memories and experiences with reliable people. And there's a great saying that says we keep going to the wrong places for the right things, which means we keep seeking reliability and relationship from unreliable people. We keep perpetuating a wound. So usually what happened with an anxious person as a kid is they had an adult who maybe they had to walk on eggshells with, they had to predict their behavior, maybe they were angry, maybe they were an alcoholic, they had to caretake for them, and maybe their parent wasn't even around, because what's happening unconsciously is when there's distance between us, I don't feel safe. And maybe there was abandonment, rejection, anything like that. So what this person is doing as an adult is living out the imprint that they had as a kid. So you would ask yourself, what is the thing I wanted most as a kid and didn't get? So think about that again. What is the thing I wanted most as a kid and didn't get? Likely it'll be something like my mom or dad's attention. I wanted to feel safe. I wanted to feel understood. I wanted to feel loved for just being me. A lot of the times what develops anxious attachment is that they didn't get to be a self. So they were responsible for other people's feelings, maybe caretaking little brothers and sisters, maybe taking care of their alcoholic mother or father, maybe they had a narcissistic parent. And what happens is they don't get to fully develop a self, because what happens is they're constantly being hypervigilant about this person. And they're doing that to predict their future, to predict this person's behavior. So you can think about it, you're like leaving your own psychic energy to go into other people's psychic energy to be able to maintain and predict the future so you can create safety. So this is why, in coaching and therapy and other healthcare practicing modalities, a lot of people who are anxiously attached go into those. A lot of codependent people do, because they've developed a hyper-vigilant skill set of being able to intuit and see through other people's needs and wants and their emotions and their experiences, and it's from their survival strategy as children. And so in order for that survival strategy to become a superpower, they actually have to heal their need to be needed. They have to heal the fact that they need someone else to have a problem that they can fix. So part of this dynamic, and this is the whole problem, right, is that when an anxious person is dating an avoidant person, they ultimately just need to learn how to stand still. They need to learn how to stop going towards them. And I have a whole video on how to heal with an avoidant person right here. But ultimately what this person who's anxious, if that's you, is looking for is like constantly surveying for safety, but they keep leaving their own center. It is normal for an anxious person, till it's not, to abandon themselves for connection and love. And I'm saying what you keep wounding yourself with by pursuing people who cannot be present with your experience is you keep abandoning yourself. So you're seeking someone else to choose you, love you, be reliable, dependent, but you're actually seeking for yourself to choose yourself, to be reliable, to be able to depend on yourself. So this can take some time to build up the capacity to stop leaving your own center, because it comes from this place of like an imprint from your childhood. So I have so much compassion for where it comes from, but what you want to say is, thanks for getting me here, but we actually don't need this anymore. Thanks for getting me here, and thank you for protecting me and getting me to this moment where I get to choose that I no longer want to date or be in relationship with people who can't hold the space for my experience. If you're anxious, the constant thing you need to be asking yourself is, if I love myself, what would I do in this moment? If I felt secure, if I knew I had a secure attachment style, what would a secure person do? Would they have this conversation? You see, a lot of anxious people get caught in the dating phase because they're actually always wondering, like, what are we? But I don't want to ask what we are because I don't want to be too much. And the thing is, you have to be too much. You have to be able to, what you think is too much is just regular human needs, right? Because you've been hypersensitized to not take up space. And I'm saying you got to start taking up space. And ultimately, the most healthy relationships are two selves, two people who take up space, and the relationship is the thing you co-create between. You have to be clear and create agreements very early in the dating process. You have to say, listen, I'm looking for personal growth. I'm looking that both of us are ready to take responsibility for our side of the street. Are you in? Are you not? And if you're in that dating process and you go, here's the way I handle conflict. How do you handle it? What happens when something comes up for you? What do? Do you have a hard time or an easy time hearing other people's frustrations, right? So you're having these important conversations early on, and you got to remember, if they scare people away, they're not your people. So if you're in a relationship with an anxious person, the best thing you can do is ask questions and get an understanding of, where does the wound come from? Where did you learn that you couldn't be a full self? Where did you prioritize other people's feelings, wants, and needs over your own? And you're going to get some really valuable information about their childhood, their experience, their culture. Because religions can do this. They could say, you actually don't get to be all of you. It's called faith. You can't question anything, right? So it can be a product of so many things, and all the things adding up together. So you'd say, hey, what would you need when we're in conflict so that you feel safer, so that you feel more regulated? And now, of course, we have to be mindful that the person we're making the request from, if we're anxious, can say no, can say that actually doesn't work for me. And so what is happening when two people are safe to actually engage in what they desire and have conversations and not abandon one another in the dialogue process and how you handle conflict? They start to create new stories about what it means to give space to somebody, that it no longer means abandonment and rejection, and for the other person, what it means to get closer. So a lot of the times you'll hear someone say, when we get into conflict, What happens is I get intense and they withdraw, which makes me more intense, right? And then they shut down and leave. And so you have to create rules about how you engage. At first, it's going to be hard for your nervous system to know a different way. It's going to be hard for your wounds to actually trust a different way. And this is obvious, right? We'll stay in familiar suffering to avoid unfamiliar success. We know that consciously, and it doesn't make any sense because we're going like, why would I not want to be better? Why would I not want healthier relationships? It's because you don't trust healthy relationships. You don't trust people. So why we engage in the distancing or the chasing, where we are leaving our own center and our own safety to go after people who are actually not reliable, who are not good choices, is we just are living out a familiar pattern. So when you stop chasing your father, you stop chasing your mother, you stop living in the wound, and you start to build the ability to discern, is this a good choice for me? Is this relationship a match for me? Most anxious people, when they date, they go, oh, like I have feelings for them, I hope they like me. And they stop asking themselves, do I like them? No one is the one right off the bat. Someone becomes the one over time as they build more evidence for you that they can co-create a relationship that you desire. So for anxiously attached people, you can become earned secure. And that's first and foremost going to come from you not leaving your own self and you not abandoning yourself for other people. I get that that can feel like a tall task at first because you're going to feel selfish and you're going to feel guilt. And I'm going to tell you right now that your selfishness is just the establishment of a self. And the guilt you're feeling is not guilt about letting other people down. It's the guilt that you're going to feel from the history of letting yourself down. So if you like this video, please share it with someone you think it could be helpful with. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the notification button so you don't miss any more. Much love.